Have you ever wondered why some people seem to live in a constant flow of abundance, while others struggle their entire lives? No matter how hard they work, no matter how many techniques they try, no matter how desperately they long for financial freedom, there is something beyond effort, beyond luck, beyond circumstance, beyond education or connections that separates those who effortlessly attract wealth from those who remain trapped in cycles of financial limitation. Today you will discover what Genevieve Behrend called the most profound secret of prosperity consciousness, the existence of a higher dimension of wealth that your mind can access in a single moment of recognition. Picture your mind not as a thinking machine contained within your skull, but as a sophisticated tuning device capable of receiving frequencies from dimensions beyond the physical realm. Just as a radio can be adjusted to receive different stations broadcasting on various wavelengths, your consciousness can be calibrated to tune into the exact frequency where unlimited abundance already exists and flows continuously. Most people live their entire lives with their mental dial stuck on the station of scarcity, hearing only the static of limitation, never knowing that infinite wealth is broadcasting on a frequency just one adjustment away. The tragedy is not that wealth is scarce or difficult to obtain. The tragedy is that prosperity exists in unlimited abundance in a dimension parallel to your current reality, separated not by distance or time, but by frequency, by the simple calibration of your consciousness to receive its transmission. In this higher dimension of wealth, your financial freedom already exists in perfect completion. Your prosperity is not something that might happen to you someday if you work hard enough or get lucky enough. It is something that has already been accomplished in the realm where all possibilities exist simultaneously. You are here listening to these words not by accident or coincidence. Something deeper than conscious decision brought you to this moment of revelation. Your soul recognizes that you are ready to step out of the lower dimension of financial struggle and into the higher realm where prosperity is not something you chase, but something that flows to you as naturally as breath flows into your lungs. Genevieve understood that this dimensional shift happens not through years of practice or complex rituals, but through a single act of mental alignment that takes less than 3 minutes to perform. The key to unlocking this higher dimension of wealth lies not in your bank account, not in your circumstances, not in your past experiences with money, not in your education or skills or connections. It lies in your mind's ability to recognize that wealth exists in a dimension parallel to this physical reality, a realm where your prosperity has already been completed, where your financial freedom already exists in perfect form, waiting only for your consciousness to tune into its frequency and allow it to translate into your material experience. What you are about to learn challenges everything the world has taught you about creating wealth. You have been conditioned to believe that money must be earned through struggle, accumulated through sacrifice, and protected through fear. You have been programmed to think that abundance belongs to other people, that prosperity requires special qualifications, that financial freedom is reserved for those who are smarter, luckier, or more deserving than you. But Genevieve discovered that in the higher dimension of wealth, prosperity operates by entirely different laws. In that realm, abundance flows effortlessly to those who simply align their mental frequency with its vibration. No striving, no forcing, no desperate attempts to make something happen that feels foreign to your nature. The higher dimension of wealth does not care about your current bank balance, your credit score, your employment status, or your financial history. It does not judge your worthiness based on your past mistakes or current circumstances. It responds only to the frequency of your consciousness, the vibration of your mental alignment, the clarity of your recognition that abundance is your natural birthright, rather than a privilege you must earn. When you tune into this dimension, prosperity flows to you, not as a reward for being good enough, but as the natural expression of universal law, operating through your individual awareness. If you sense that something profound is about to shift in your understanding of wealth and your relationship to it, I invite you to like this video now as a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive what has always been yours by divine right. Leave a comment with these 3 words: wealth flows now. Do not write anything else. Just those 3 sacred words that will activate your participation in this dimensional shift. And if you feel called to join a community of souls who understand that prosperity is not a privilege for the few, but a birthright for all who dare to tune into the higher dimension, subscribe to this channel and become part of a movement that is transforming consciousness around money and abundance. Your mind holds the key to a dimension where your wealth already exists in perfect form. In the next part of this revelation, I will show you exactly why most people remain locked out of this higher dimension, and how a simple shift in mental frequency can change everything within 48 hours. Let us continue to discover this hidden dimension that has been waiting for your recognition. There is a prison that exists not behind bars of steel, but behind the invisible walls of conditioned consciousness. Most people live their entire lives trapped in what Genevieve called the lower dimension of limitation, a realm where scarcity feels real, where lack appears permanent, where the struggle for financial survival seems like the natural order of existence. In this dimension, you experience the weight of bills like stones pressing against your chest, the anxiety of never having enough like a constant background hum that disturbs your sleep and steals your peace. Imagine waking each morning with a knot in your stomach, that familiar sensation of financial pressure that has become so common you barely notice it anymore. You check your bank balance and feel the old, familiar contraction, the tightening around your heart that whispers you are behind. You are not enough. You are failing at the most basic requirement of adult life. This is the lower dimension speaking through your nervous system, broadcasting its frequency of limitation directly into your body, your emotions, your very sense of self-worth. In the lower dimension of limitation, money feels heavy and difficult to obtain. Every dollar requires effort. Every purchase requires calculation. Every unexpected expense creates a wave of panic that ripples through your entire energy field. You move through the world with the invisible burden of financial worry draped across your shoulders like a heavy cloak that grows heavier with each passing day. The bills arrive like unwelcome visitors who refuse to leave, and you find yourself living in a constant state of financial defense, always calculating, always postponing, always hoping that next month will somehow be different. The most insidious aspect of this dimensional prison is how it distorts your vision of what is possible. From the lower dimension, wealth appears to belong to other people, to exist in some distant realm that requires special qualifications, connections, or luck to access. You see prosperity as something that might happen to you if you work hard enough, sacrifice enough, prove yourself worthy enough through years of dedication and struggle. The very idea that abundance could flow to you easily and naturally feels like fantasy, like wishful thinking, like something too good to be true. This dimensional imprisonment creates a filter through which you perceive every opportunity, every possibility, every invitation to expand beyond your current circumstances. When chances for advancement appear, you see the obstacles instead of the opening. When abundance presents itself, you question your worthiness instead of claiming your inheritance. When prosperity beckons, you hesitate instead of stepping forward with confidence. The lower dimension has trained you to expect limitation, to prepare for disappointment, to protect yourself against hope. The emotional weight of living in this dimensional prison affects every aspect of your existence. You carry stress in your shoulders from constantly bracing against financial impact. You lose sleep calculating and recalculating numbers that never seem to add up. You avoid social situations that require spending money, decline invitations that might stretch your budget, and gradually shrink your world to fit the perceived boundaries of your financial limitations. The lower dimension does not just limit your money, it limits your entire experience of life. You may have noticed that even when good fortune arrives, an unexpected bonus, a gift, a small windfall, the lower dimension quickly reasserts its dominance. The money disappears into expenses you had forgotten about, emergencies that seem to materialize from nowhere, or simply vanishes in ways you cannot quite explain. This is because the lower dimension has its own gravitational pull that draws financial energy away from those who vibrate primarily within its frequency range. Until you shift dimensions, even temporary abundance cannot establish permanent roots in your experience. The lower dimension speaks through 1,000 subtle voices that keep you aligned with lack. It whispers that wanting more money is greedy, that financial ambition is spiritually dangerous, that poverty is somehow more virtuous than prosperity. It convinces you that struggle builds character, that suffering is necessary for growth, that abundance would corrupt your soul or separate you from what really matters. These voices are not your wisdom. They are the programming of a dimension designed to keep you trapped in limitation. Perhaps most tragically, the lower dimension teaches you to distrust your own desires for financial freedom. It labels your dreams of abundance as unrealistic, your visions of prosperity as selfish, your longing for wealth as evidence of shallow materialism. It convinces you that good people should be content with less, that spiritual people do not care about money, that seeking abundance proves you lack faith or gratitude for what you already have. In this way, the dimensional prison becomes self-maintaining, using your own conscience against your natural birthright of prosperity. The tragedy is not that the lower dimension exists, but that so many souls believe it is the only dimension available to them. They accept financial struggle as their permanent address, never realizing that just beyond the thin veil of their current perception lies a realm where abundance flows like a river that never runs dry, where prosperity seeks them out rather than hiding from their reach, where wealth appears not as a reward for suffering, but as the natural expression of their divine inheritance. But as water always finds a way around the largest boulder, as light always penetrates the darkest room when a single candle is lit, there is another dimension waiting for your recognition. A realm that exists parallel to your current experience, separated not by distance or time, but by frequency, by the simple adjustment of your mental dial from the station of scarcity to the frequency of unlimited abundance. Let us continue to explore how this dimensional shift becomes possible. There is a story I must share with you because it reveals the precise moment when someone breaks free from the lower dimension of limitation and steps into the higher dimension of wealth. This story belongs to Beverly, a 34-year-old secretary from Minneapolis who had been trapped in financial struggle for over a decade, watching her dreams grow smaller each year as her bills grew larger, feeling like she was swimming upstream against a current that grew stronger with every stroke. Beverly worked 40 hours a week in a downtown office building, earning barely enough to cover her basic expenses. She lived in a small apartment where the heat rarely worked properly, drove a car that required constant repairs, and had grown accustomed to the weight of financial anxiety that followed her from morning until night. She had tried everything the conventional world recommended for improving her financial situation. She had created budgets that looked perfect on paper but fell apart within weeks. She had taken on side jobs that left her exhausted but barely moved the needle on her bank balance. She had even bought lottery tickets with her last few dollars, hoping against hope that luck might rescue her from the quicksand of perpetual struggle. For 3 years, Beverly maintained these efforts with the determination of someone who refuses to give up on her dreams. She attended free financial planning seminars, read every book she could find on money management, and even started a small side business selling handmade crafts online. But no matter what she tried, the fundamental pattern remained unchanged. She was always one emergency away from crisis, always calculating whether she could afford necessities, always feeling like she was running on a treadmill that moved faster than she could keep up. One evening in late November, Beverly was sitting at her kitchen table surrounded by bills and bank statements, trying to figure out how to stretch her paycheck until the end of the month. The overhead light cast harsh shadows across the papers, and she felt that familiar sensation of hopelessness settling over her like a cold fog. She had been staring at the numbers for over an hour, moving money around on paper like puzzle pieces that refused to fit together properly. The arithmetic was simple and unforgiving. More money going out than coming in, with no obvious solution in sight. In that moment of complete despair, something unexpected happened. Beverly's mind suddenly became very quiet, as if someone had turned down the volume on the constant chatter of worry and calculation that normally filled her head. In that unusual stillness, she felt a subtle shift in perception, as if someone had adjusted the focus on a camera and everything became clear. She looked at the bills spread across her table, and instead of seeing evidence of her failure, she saw them as temporary arrangements in a dimension that was not her true home. Without understanding why, Beverly knew with absolute certainty that somewhere else in some other realm of existence, her financial freedom already existed in perfect completion. This knowing did not come through thinking or reasoning or hoping. It arrived as a direct recognition, the way you recognize your own reflection in a mirror or your own voice on a recording. Beverly felt her consciousness tune into a frequency she had never accessed before, a dimension where abundance was not something she needed to create, but something she simply needed to claim. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was not excitement, which carries the energy of grasping for something outside yourself. It was not hope, which contains the uncertainty of not knowing whether your desire will be fulfilled. It was a profound sense of coming home to something that had always belonged to her, but had been temporarily forgotten. In that instant, she understood that she had been living in a lower octave of reality, while her true prosperity existed in a higher dimensional frequency. As this recognition settled into her consciousness, Beverly felt a physical sensation of expansion, as if the walls of her small apartment had suddenly become infinite, as if the boundaries that had felt so confining moments before had simply dissolved. The bills on her table remained unchanged, but her relationship to them had transformed completely. They no longer felt like evidence of her inadequacy, but like temporary props in a play she was about to finish performing. The next morning, Beverly woke with an unfamiliar sensation of lightness in her chest. The bills were still on her kitchen table, her bank balance had not changed overnight, but something fundamental had shifted in her relationship to money and possibility. She moved through her workday with a quiet confidence that felt foreign yet natural, as if she was remembering something she had always known but temporarily forgotten. People noticed the change immediately. Her supervisor commented that she seemed different, more present, more assured. Co-workers asked if she had gotten good news about something, but the most remarkable change was internal. For the first time in years, Beverly was not afraid to check her bank balance. For the first time in years, she was not anxious when opening mail. For the first time in years, she felt excited about the future instead of worried about survival. She had not won the lottery or received an inheritance or learned any new financial strategies. She had simply tuned her consciousness to a different dimensional frequency, and everything had changed. Within 48 hours, Beverly's external reality began reflecting her internal dimensional shift. Her supervisor approached her about a promotion opportunity that had not existed the week before. A freelance project she had mentioned months earlier to a friend suddenly materialized with a client willing to pay double her usual rate. An old savings account she had forgotten about sent her a notice that it had been earning interest and was ready for withdrawal. But the most remarkable change was not in the money that began flowing to her. It was in the effortlessness with which it arrived. Beverly no longer felt like she was pushing against a heavy door that refused to open. Instead, she felt like abundance was seeking her out, finding creative ways to reach her, flowing through channels she had never thought to create. She had not learned new skills or changed her behavior in any dramatic way. She had simply tuned her consciousness to a different dimensional frequency, and reality had reorganized itself to match that new vibration. Beverly accessed what Genevieve called the higher dimension of wealth, a realm that exists parallel to our physical reality, where prosperity has already been completed for every soul willing to tune into its frequency. This dimension does not require you to earn your way into it through struggle or prove your worthiness through sacrifice. It requires only the recognition that it exists and the willingness to adjust your mental frequency to receive its transmission. Now I will reveal to you the exact method Genevieve discovered for accessing this higher dimension, the precise mental key that Beverly stumbled upon accidentally, but that you can apply deliberately to create the same dimensional shift in your own experience. Let us continue. In the early 1900s, when the world believed that wealth could only be achieved through backbreaking labor and ruthless competition, when prosperity was considered the exclusive privilege of those born into fortunate circumstances or blessed with exceptional talents, Genevieve Behrend made a discovery that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about the nature of abundance. Through years of studying under Thomas Troward and applying the deepest principles of mental science, she uncovered what she quietly called the higher dimension of wealth, a realm that exists just beyond the perception of ordinary consciousness, where abundance flows according to laws entirely different from those governing the physical world. Genevieve understood that your mind is not merely a thinking instrument contained within your skull, processing thoughts and solving problems in isolation from the greater universe. Your consciousness is a sophisticated receiving device capable of tuning into frequencies, broadcast from dimensions beyond physical reality, dimensions where different laws apply, where different possibilities exist, where different outcomes are not only possible, but inevitable. Just as scientists had discovered invisible radio waves carrying information through space, she recognized that consciousness could access invisible wealth waves carrying prosperity through what she termed the dimensional field of infinite supply. The breakthrough came when Genevieve realized that most people approach wealth from the perspective of the lower dimension, believing they must create abundance through action, effort, and time. They see money as something that must be earned through labor, accumulated through saving, and protected against loss through careful management. They operate from the assumption that prosperity is scarce, that competition is necessary, that someone else's gain must mean their loss. From this dimensional perspective, wealth appears difficult to obtain and easy to lose, requiring constant vigilance and effort to maintain. But Genevieve discovered that in the higher dimension of wealth, prosperity operates by entirely different principles. In that realm, abundance already exists in completed form for every individual. Your wealth is not something you must create through effort. It is something you must recognize through awareness, tune into through consciousness, and allow to translate from the invisible dimension into your material experience through proper frequency alignment. Think of it this way. Radio waves carrying beautiful music surround you at this very moment. The music is complete, perfect, broadcasting continuously from stations around the world. You could sit in silence for hours, even days, hearing nothing but quiet. But you hear only silence, not because the music is absent, but because your receiving equipment is not calibrated to detect its transmission. The music was never missing. Your radio was simply not tuned to the correct frequency. Your financial prosperity exists in exactly the same way, complete and perfect in the higher dimension, broadcasting continuously, waiting only for your consciousness to tune into its frequency. The difference between those who struggle financially and those who live in effortless abundance is not talent, education, connections, luck, or circumstances. It is simply a matter of which dimensional frequency their consciousness habitually receives. Those trapped in financial limitation have their mental dial stuck on the static-filled station of scarcity consciousness. They hear only the broadcasts of lack, limitation, and struggle, because that is the frequency their awareness is calibrated to receive. Those who experience consistent prosperity have learned, either consciously or unconsciously, to keep their awareness tuned to the clear, powerful broadcast of the wealth dimension. Genevieve discovered that this dimensional shift happens not through gradual development over months or years, not through accumulating knowledge or perfecting techniques, but through a single moment of recognition when consciousness suddenly locks onto the correct frequency. Like tuning a radio, there is a precise point where static transforms into crystal clear reception. One moment you are straining to hear abundance through the interference of limitation, and the next moment the signal comes through perfectly, filling your awareness with the unmistakable transmission of your own prosperity. This recognition changes everything about how manifestation works in your life. Instead of trying to attract wealth from outside yourself, you realize you are simply allowing wealth that already exists in the higher dimension to express itself through your material circumstances. Instead of working to become worthy of abundance, you recognize that your worthiness was established in the dimension where your prosperity was created. Instead of hoping that money will come to you someday, You understand that it is flowing to you right now from the dimension where it has always belonged to you. The mental key that unlocks this dimensional shift is surprisingly simple, which is why most people overlook it in favor of more complicated approaches that make the ego feel important and useful. Genevieve found that the human mind, when properly aligned through specific recognition rather than effort, can access the higher dimension of wealth in less than 3 minutes through a sequence of acknowledgement, alignment, and reception. This is not visualization, which tries to create something that does not exist. This is not affirmation, which attempts to convince the mind of something it doubts. This is not positive thinking, which overlays optimism onto underlying patterns of limitation. This is dimensional frequency adjustment through conscious participation in the realm where your abundance already exists in perfect completion. The reason this approach succeeds where other methods fail is that it works with recognition rather than creation, with claiming rather than asking, with remembering rather than learning. When you tune into the higher dimension of wealth, you are not trying to manifest prosperity. You are allowing prosperity to recognize itself through your conscious participation. You are not becoming worthy of abundance. You are remembering that you were always worthy in the dimension where your wealth was established. You are not creating your financial freedom. You are claiming the financial freedom that has been waiting for your acknowledgement since the moment you first dreamed of living without limitation. Write these words now as your declaration of readiness. I tune into wealth now. Do not write anything else. Let these words carry your consciousness toward the frequency that Genevieve discovered, the vibration that Beverly accessed, the dimension where your financial freedom has been waiting for your recognition since before you were born into this physical experience. Now I will show you the exact mental key that opens the doorway to the higher dimension of wealth, the precise method that shifts your consciousness from the frequency of struggle to the frequency of effortless abundance in less time than it takes to brew a cup of coffee. Let us continue. The dimensional key that Genevieve discovered works through what she called conscious frequency alignment, a specific sequence of mental and physical positioning that attunes your entire being to receive the wealth transmission from the higher dimension. This is not meditation, which often keeps you in a peaceful but passive state. This is not visualization, which tries to create images of what you want to happen. This is not affirmation, which attempts to convince your mind of something it may not believe. This is precise calibration of your consciousness to lock onto the exact frequency where your abundance broadcasts continuously, waiting for your recognition. The power of this technique lies in its integration of multiple aspects of your being: physical positioning, mental focus, emotional alignment, and spiritual recognition, creating what Genevieve called a dimensional bridge between your current experience and the realm where your prosperity exists in perfect completion. When all levels of your consciousness participate simultaneously in this recognition, resistance becomes impossible and dimensional shift becomes inevitable. Find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably without interruption for the next 3 minutes. This practice requires complete privacy, not because it is secret, but because it is sacred. You are about to perform an act of consciousness that bridges dimensions, and that bridge requires your undivided attention and absolute presence. Place your feet flat on the floor and rest your hands gently on your thighs, palms facing upward in a gesture of receptivity. This physical positioning signals to your nervous system that you are ready to receive rather than struggle, to allow rather than force, to tune in rather than work out. Close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths, allowing each exhale to release any tension, urgency, or desperation about your financial situation. You are not about to perform a technique to make something happen. You are about to recognize something that has already happened in the higher dimension. Let go of any need for this process to work, any attachment to specific outcomes, any timeline for when results should appear. You are preparing to enter a space where time operates differently, where causation follows different laws, where your awareness determines reality rather than circumstances determining your experience. Now bring your attention to the top of your head and imagine a golden key materializing there, hovering just above your crown. This is not fantasy or imagination. This is symbolic recognition of your consciousness as the key that unlocks access to dimensional realms beyond physical reality. See this key clearly in your mind's eye, feeling its weight, its warmth, its power to open doorways between dimensions. The key represents your natural ability to tune into frequencies beyond the physical realm, your birthright to access abundance that exists in completed form. Take the golden key in your mental hands and slowly, reverently, lower it toward the center of your chest, to the space around your heart. As the key approaches your heart center, feel the electromagnetic field around your body beginning to shift, expanding, preparing to receive transmission from a higher frequency. As the key makes contact with your heart space, speak these words silently or aloud with absolute authority, not as a request, but as a recognition. I unlock the higher dimension of wealth now. Feel the key turning in an invisible lock within your chest, opening a doorway that has been waiting for this moment of recognition since before you were born. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanism by which consciousness accesses dimensions beyond physical reality. As the dimensional doorway opens, allow yourself to feel the shift in your energy field. You may sense a lightness in your chest, an expansion in your breathing, a subtle vibration that was not present before, or simply a knowing that something fundamental has changed. Do not analyze or question these sensations. Simply allow them to establish themselves as your new baseline frequency. Now imagine stepping through the doorway in your chest into a realm of golden light where abundance flows like a river of liquid prosperity. In this dimension, the laws that govern your physical reality do not apply. Here, scarcity is impossible, limitation does not exist, and your prosperity has been waiting in perfect completion for your conscious recognition. Look around this dimensional space and see your financial freedom as a completed reality. See yourself living without money worries, making decisions from abundance rather than scarcity, feeling the deep peace that comes with knowing your prosperity is permanently established. This is not visualization of what you hope will happen. This is recognition of what already exists in the higher dimension. In this realm, you can perceive the truth that your wealth was never absent, only hidden from your awareness by the frequency limitations of ordinary consciousness. Feel yourself in this space of dimensional abundance, breathing the air of prosperity, surrounded by the flow of resources that have always belonged to you. While you remain in this space of dimensional awareness, declare with unwavering certainty, "My wealth exists in perfect completion. I tune my consciousness to receive its transmission now. I am permanently aligned with the higher dimension of wealth." Feel these words anchoring themselves not just in your mind, but in your cellular memory, in your electromagnetic field, in the quantum structure of your consciousness itself. These words are establishing a new frequency that will continue broadcasting even after you return your attention to the physical realm. Before you open your eyes, place your mental hands on your heart and feel the golden key now permanently positioned there as your access point to the wealth dimension. Know that this key can never be lost, stolen, or broken by any external circumstance. It is your eternal connection to the realm where your abundance flows continuously. Whenever you need to strengthen your dimensional alignment, simply place your physical hand on your heart and remember the golden key that unlocks your connection to prosperity. Slowly, gently, begin to bring your awareness back to your physical surroundings while maintaining your connection to the higher dimension. Open your eyes gradually and notice how the room around you may appear slightly different, as if the light has changed or the air has become more spacious. This is evidence that your consciousness has successfully tuned into a new frequency. You have not imagined this shift. You have accessed the dimensional realm where your wealth broadcasts continuously. A man named Donald applied this exact technique on a Tuesday evening after months of financial struggle that had left him feeling defeated and hopeless. He followed each step precisely, feeling the dimensional shift occur as his consciousness locked onto the wealth frequency. Within 18 hours, a business partner contacted him about an investment opportunity that had not existed the day before. an opportunity that would allow him to participate in a venture he had never imagined possible. Within 48 hours, he received notification that a legal settlement he had completely forgotten about was ready for collection, providing him with more money than he had seen in years. But Donald's experience reveals something crucial about how the higher dimension operates. The abundance that flowed to him did not come through channels he had planned, expected, or could have created through effort. The higher dimension of wealth had recognized his new frequency and begun transmitting abundance through pathways that already existed but had been invisible to his previous level of consciousness. This is how dimensional prosperity works, not by creating new opportunities, but by revealing opportunities that were always present but hidden from limited awareness. But there is a reason this dimensional shift works within exactly 48 hours, a specific timing that reflects how consciousness bridges between the invisible and visible realms. Understanding this timing will help you recognize the signs that your frequency adjustment is working and prevent doubt from interfering with the manifestation process. Let us continue. There exists a sacred rhythm in the universe that governs how consciousness translates from one dimension to another, and Genevieve discovered that this rhythm operates on a 48-hour cycle when it comes to wealth manifestation. This is not arbitrary timing based on wishful thinking or convenient marketing. It reflects the precise period required for your nervous system to integrate a new frequency, for your electromagnetic field to stabilize at a higher vibration, and for the higher dimension of wealth to reorganize your material circumstances to match your shifted consciousness. When you perform the dimensional key ritual and successfully tune into the wealth dimension, several profound changes begin occurring simultaneously in both your inner consciousness and your outer reality. These changes follow a specific sequence that unfolds with the precision of natural law, as reliable as the phases of the moon or the changing of the seasons. Understanding this sequence helps you recognize the signs that your dimensional shift is working and prevents the doubt that often sabotages manifestation just before breakthrough occurs. Your brain immediately begins forming new neural pathways that support abundance consciousness rather than scarcity thinking. Neuroscience has discovered that consciousness can rewire the physical structure of the brain within hours, not years. When you genuinely tune into the higher dimension of wealth, your neural networks begin reorganizing themselves to perceive opportunities rather than obstacles, possibilities rather than problems, abundance rather than lack. This neural rewiring happens automatically once your consciousness locks onto the correct frequency. Simultaneously, your electromagnetic field shifts to broadcast a different vibrational signature that attracts corresponding opportunities and resources. Every human being generates a measurable electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond the physical body. This field changes dramatically based on your emotional states, belief systems, and dimensional awareness. During the dimensional key practice, your biofield begins resonating with the frequency of the wealth dimension, creating what researchers call coherent emission, a stable, powerful broadcast that influences your environment in ways that seem miraculous but are actually the natural result of consciousness operating at higher frequencies. The quantum field around you responds to your new frequency by collapsing possibilities into probabilities that align with your dimensional position. Quantum physics has revealed that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining which potential realities become actual experiences. When you shift into the higher dimension of wealth, you are literally changing which quantum possibilities your awareness calls forth into manifestation. The universe begins rearranging itself at the subatomic level to support your new dimensional identity. The first 12 hours after your frequency shift are dedicated to internal integration. Your subconscious mind begins processing the new dimensional information, clearing old patterns of limitation and establishing abundance as your new baseline expectation. During this period, you may notice subtle changes in how you feel about money. The anxiety that usually accompanies thoughts of expenses begins to fade. The excitement about opportunities begins to increase. The natural expectation that financial flow is possible begins to establish itself in your nervous system. You may also experience what Genevieve called dimensional dreams during this initial period. Vivid nighttime experiences where you see yourself living in complete financial freedom, receiving large sums of money, or successfully completing profitable ventures. These dreams are not wishful fantasies, but actual glimpses into the higher dimension where your prosperity already exists. Your consciousness is beginning to remember its true identity as a being of abundance, temporarily focused through physical form. During hours 13 through 24, the dimensional shift begins influencing your external environment in ways that often seem coincidental to those who do not understand the mechanics of consciousness. People around you unconsciously respond to your changed frequency, often becoming more generous, more willing to offer opportunities, or more inclined to include you in profitable ventures. You may receive unexpected communications from people you had not heard from in months. You may encounter unusual synchronicities that point toward financial solutions. You may notice that obstacles which previously seemed insurmountable begin dissolving without effort on your part. This is not magic in the supernatural sense. This is the natural result of your consciousness broadcasting a different frequency that influences the quantum field around you. When you vibrate at the frequency of the wealth dimension, you literally create a resonance field that attracts corresponding experiences. Other people feel this resonance unconsciously and respond by treating you differently, offering you things they might not have offered before, including you in conversations and opportunities that match your new vibrational signature. The second day, hours 25 through 48, is when the higher dimension of wealth typically delivers its first material evidence that your frequency adjustment has been successful. This evidence rarely arrives in the form you might expect or through channels you could have planned. Instead of a lottery win or sudden inheritance, you usually receive what Genevieve called divine appointments. Seemingly coincidental encounters, conversations, or opportunities that open pathways for abundance to flow into your experience. The beauty of this 48-hour window is its mathematical precision. Consciousness operates according to exact laws, just as physics and chemistry follow predictable principles. When you genuinely tune into the wealth dimension through proper frequency alignment, the response is not random or uncertain. The dimension shifts, then reality follows. Never early because consciousness needs time to integrate and broadcast at the new frequency. Never late because universal law operates with perfect timing. Always exact according to the rhythm that serves your highest good and the good of all life. Science is beginning to understand these principles through research into neuroplasticity, quantum consciousness, and biofield interactions. When you change your dominant thoughts and emotions through dimensional awareness, you literally rewire your brain to perceive and respond to different aspects of reality. When you shift your vibrational frequency through conscious intention, you alter the electromagnetic field around your body, which influences how you interact with the energy fields of other people and environmental conditions. But the most important aspect of the 48-hour window is maintaining your dimensional alignment during this crucial period. Your old consciousness will attempt to reassert itself, especially during the first day when the new frequency feels unfamiliar and your logical mind begins questioning what happened. Doubt may whisper that nothing is really changing. Impatience may urge you to force results through effort and action. Fear may suggest that you are being foolish to believe in dimensional wealth. These responses are normal and temporary. They represent the final broadcasts from your old frequency before it fades completely. Like static on a radio, when you are tuning between stations, these mental disturbances are actually evidence that your consciousness is in transition. The key is to remain steady in your new dimensional position, trusting the process rather than abandoning it at the first sign of resistance or the absence of immediate dramatic change. During this 48-hour integration period, return to the golden key meditation whenever you feel your frequency wavering. Place your hand on your heart, remember the dimensional doorway you opened, and reaffirm your alignment with the higher dimension of wealth. This is not repetition for the sake of convincing yourself. This is maintenance of your new frequency position until it becomes permanently established in your consciousness and your nervous system. As you move through the next 2 days, watch for the signs that your dimensional shift is translating into material form. But remember that the most important evidence is not external validation. It is the internal knowing that your relationship with money and abundance has fundamentally changed. You are no longer someone who hopes for financial improvement. You have become someone who knows abundance as your natural state and expects prosperity to flow as naturally as water flows downhill. Let us continue to explore how to navigate the resistance that naturally arises during dimensional transitions. As your consciousness settles into the higher dimension of wealth, 7 specific forms of resistance will attempt to pull you back into the lower dimension of limitation. These resistances are not obstacles to overcome through force or willpower, but natural responses to frequency change that can be easily neutralized when you recognize them clearly and apply the correct response. Genevieve identified these patterns through years of observing students who successfully maintained their dimensional alignment versus those who allowed temporary interference to break their connection to abundance. Understanding these resistances before they appear is crucial because they often feel like your own authentic thoughts and concerns rather than interference patterns from your old consciousness. The mind that has been conditioned to expect limitation will naturally resist the frequency of abundance, not out of malice, but out of familiarity. It prefers the known territory of struggle to the unknown landscape of effortless prosperity, even when struggle brings suffering and prosperity brings joy. The first resistance arrives as intellectual doubt disguised as logical thinking. Your rational mind will analyze the dimensional key practice and conclude that it cannot possibly work because it seems too simple, too different from conventional approaches to wealth building, too easy compared to the struggle you have been taught is necessary for financial success. This voice will say, "You are being naive to believe that 3 minutes of mental alignment can change your financial reality. Real wealth requires hard work, education, connections, and luck." Successful people do not use such methods. You are setting yourself up for disappointment by believing in something that has no basis in practical reality. When this resistance appears, do not engage in mental arguments or try to convince the doubting voice that dimensional wealth is real. Simply acknowledge its presence and respond with quiet authority. Thank you for sharing, but the higher dimension operates by different laws than the physical realm. I honor your concern, but I am operating from a new frequency now. Do not argue with doubt. Simply remain anchored in your dimensional position while allowing the doubting voice to express itself without giving it authority over your choices. The second resistance manifests as social fear about what others might think if they knew you were using consciousness to access wealth. This fear whispers, "People will think you are crazy for believing in dimensional prosperity. Your friends will mock you. Your family will worry about your mental health." Successful people do not use such methods, and if you tell anyone about this, you will lose credibility and respect. You should keep this secret or, better yet, abandon it before anyone discovers your foolishness. When this resistance arises, remember that most people live trapped in the lower dimension and cannot perceive frequencies beyond their current range. Their opinions about dimensional wealth are formed from their limited perspective and have no bearing on your experience of abundance. Those who ridicule what they do not understand are protecting themselves from the possibility that their own limitations are self-imposed. Respond silently to this resistance. I honor your perspective, but I live in a different dimensional reality now. Your beliefs about money cannot affect my experience of prosperity. The third resistance appears as scientific skepticism that demands proof before believing. This voice insists, "Show me the research that validates dimensional wealth. Prove that consciousness can influence material reality. Where are the peer-reviewed studies? Where is the objective evidence?" You are believing in fantasy instead of facts, and intelligent people require more than personal testimony before accepting extraordinary claims. When this resistance emerges, recognize that some truths can only be validated through direct experience rather than external validation. Science follows consciousness, not the other way around. Many of the greatest discoveries in human history were initially rejected by the scientific establishment because they challenged existing paradigms. Your personal experience of dimensional abundance is more relevant to your life than any study conducted on other people. Respond with quiet confidence. I am conducting my own experiment, and the results will speak for themselves. My experience is my evidence. The fourth resistance comes as comparison with others who seem to struggle despite spiritual practice. This voice says, if dimensional wealth really works, why do so many good people remain poor? Why does abundance not flow to everyone who tries these methods? You see spiritual teachers who struggle financially, kind people who remain in poverty, and generous souls who never experience prosperity. If this technique is real, why does it not work for everyone? When this resistance appears, understand that each person's dimensional alignment is individual and perfect for their soul's journey through this lifetime. Not everyone is ready to receive wealth in this incarnation, and that timing is divinely orchestrated for reasons that transcend human understanding. Some souls choose to experience limitation as part of their spiritual development. Others carry unconscious blocks from past experiences that require different approaches to healing. Your prosperity does not depend on anyone else's experience. Respond compassionately. Each soul follows its own perfect path to awakening. My abundance serves my unique purpose and does not diminish anyone else's journey. The fifth resistance manifests as impatience disguised as practical urgency. This voice demands, how long will this take? When will you see real results? You need money now, not sometime in the future. Bills are due, obligations are pressing, and you cannot afford to wait for some mystical process to unfold. You should be taking practical action instead of relying on consciousness techniques that might not work. When this resistance arises, remember that the 48-hour window is already in motion according to natural law, and forcing the process actually interferes with dimensional flow. Impatience broadcasts the frequency of lack, which contradicts the frequency of abundance you are establishing. Trust in divine timing is not passive resignation, but active faith in the intelligence of the universe to orchestrate circumstances more masterfully than your individual perspective could plan. Respond with trust. Divine timing is perfect timing. My abundance arrives exactly when it serves my highest good and the good of all life. The sixth resistance appears as the ultimate test just before your abundance manifests. This voice creates a crisis of faith by saying, nothing is happening. You have been fooled again. This is just like all the other techniques that promised results and delivered disappointment. You should give up before you embarrass yourself further. Face reality and stop chasing impossible dreams. This resistance often intensifies just before breakthrough because your old consciousness makes one final attempt to maintain control over your identity and experience. It would rather keep you trapped in familiar limitation than allow you to discover your true power as a dimensional being. When this resistance peaks, it is actually evidence that your dimensional shift is about to translate into material form. The darkness is always deepest just before dawn. Respond with unwavering certainty. I remain steadfast in the higher dimension, regardless of temporary appearances. My abundance is already established and is now revealing itself in perfect timing. The seventh and final resistance emerges as fear of actually receiving abundance. This voice whispers, what if wealth changes you in negative ways? What if you become greedy, selfish, or lose touch with spiritual values? What if money corrupts your soul or separates you from what really matters? What if you are not worthy of abundance and receiving it will expose your inadequacy? This resistance protects you from success because part of your consciousness associates money with corruption, spiritual compromise, or moral failure. These associations often develop from childhood experiences, religious conditioning, or cultural programming that portrays wealth as inherently dangerous to the soul. When this resistance appears, affirm your intention to use abundance as a force for good in your life and in the world. Respond with clear purpose. My wealth serves love and contributes to the well-being of all life. I am worthy of abundance because abundance is my divine inheritance. Money amplifies who I already am, and I am fundamentally good. Each time one of these resistances appears during your 48-hour integration period, recognize it immediately and apply the appropriate response. Do not engage in lengthy internal debates or try to convince the resistant voice that it is wrong. These voices represent old programming that will fade naturally as your new frequency becomes established. Simply acknowledge their presence and return your attention to the feeling of being anchored in the higher dimension of wealth. The most effective way to neutralize all 7 resistances simultaneously is to return to the scene of your dimensional breakthrough. Close your eyes, place your hand on your heart where the golden key rests, and remember the moment when you stepped through the doorway into the realm of abundant light. Feel yourself in that space again, surrounded by the flow of prosperity that has always belonged to you. From this dimensional position, all resistance loses its power because you are operating from a frequency where limitation simply does not exist. Write these words now to seal your commitment to maintaining dimensional alignment. I remain in the higher dimension. Do not write anything else. Let these words anchor your consciousness in the realm where your wealth broadcasts continuously, regardless of any temporary interference from old patterns of thinking or feeling. And to strengthen your dimensional alignment even further, there are specific amplification techniques that multiply the power of your initial frequency shift and accelerate the translation of abundance from the invisible realm into your material experience. Let us continue. Once you have successfully tuned into the higher dimension of wealth through the golden key practice, there are 5 specific amplification techniques that strengthen your dimensional alignment and accelerate the flow of abundance into your material experience. These amplifiers work by creating multiple anchor points between your consciousness and the wealth dimension, ensuring that your frequency remains stable even during challenging circumstances and continues broadcasting at optimal strength regardless of external conditions. Understanding how these amplifiers work is crucial to their effectiveness. They are not additional techniques for manifesting money, but rather methods for stabilizing and strengthening the dimensional connection you have already established. Think of them as tuning forks that keep your consciousness resonating at the correct frequency, or as radio antenna adjustments that improve signal clarity and reduce interference. Each amplifier addresses a different aspect of your consciousness-matter interface, creating redundant pathways for abundance to flow from the invisible realm into your daily experience. The first amplifier involves creating a physical anchor that reminds your nervous system of your dimensional position throughout the day. Choose a small object that you can carry with you: a coin, a stone, a piece of jewelry, or any item that feels significant to you. Hold this object during your next golden key meditation, allowing it to absorb the frequency of the higher dimension of wealth. As you tune into the realm of abundant light, mentally place this object in that golden space, imprinting it with the vibration of prosperity consciousness. From that moment forward, whenever you touch this object during your daily activities, your consciousness automatically remembers its connection to the wealth dimension and strengthens that frequency within your electromagnetic field. This is not superstition, but practical application of associative conditioning combined with consciousness technology. Your nervous system learns to associate the physical sensation of touching the object with the inner experience of dimensional abundance, creating an instant pathway back to your prosperity frequency, regardless of what is happening in your external circumstances. The second amplifier works through what Genevieve called dimensional mirroring, a practice that integrates your dimensional identity with your physical form. Stand before a mirror and look directly into your own eyes while silently declaring, "I live in the wealth dimension. Abundance flows through me naturally. I am prosperity expressing itself in human form." As you speak these words, maintain eye contact with yourself and see beyond your physical reflection to the dimensional being who exists in the realm of infinite prosperity. This practice helps heal the split between your spiritual identity as a being of abundance and your physical identity as someone who experiences limitation. Many people struggle with wealth manifestation because their consciousness knows they are abundant, but their self-image contradicts that knowing. Dimensional mirroring creates coherence between your inner frequency and outer expression, allowing your physical presence to radiate the same authority and confidence that exists in your dimensional awareness. The third amplifier engages the power of gratitude as a dimensional stabilizer. Every 3 hours throughout the day, pause for 30 seconds and feel genuine appreciation for the abundance that is flowing to you from the higher dimension, even if you cannot yet see material evidence of that flow. This is not positive thinking or wishful optimism. This is recognition of what is actually occurring in the invisible realm based on your dimensional alignment. Gratitude acts like a magnetic force that draws dimensional wealth into physical manifestation more rapidly than any other emotional frequency. When you appreciate abundance before it appears, you are affirming that it already exists and is simply in the process of becoming visible. This appreciation creates a vibrational bridge between the higher dimension and your material experience, accelerating the translation process while maintaining your frequency alignment even during challenging moments. The fourth amplifier creates what Genevieve called a family frequency field, a collective dimensional alignment that multiplies individual prosperity consciousness. If you live with others, teach them the golden key practice and invite them to tune into the higher dimension of wealth together. When multiple consciousness fields align with abundance simultaneously, they create a resonance effect that is exponentially more powerful than individual practice. Even if family members are skeptical about dimensional wealth, simply holding the intention that your entire household be blessed with prosperity begins shifting the energy field around your living space. Children are particularly receptive to frequency shifts and often begin experiencing improved circumstances, even when they have no conscious knowledge of the practices being used. The key is to share the dimensional perspective without insisting that others adopt it, allowing the frequency to do its own work while respecting everyone's individual journey. The fifth and most sophisticated amplifier involves engaging your sense of smell as a dimensional trigger. Choose a specific scent, essential oil, perfume, cologne, or even a particular soap, and use it only during your golden key meditations. Over time, your nervous system will form a deep association between this aroma and the frequency of the wealth dimension. When you encounter this scent throughout your day, your consciousness automatically returns to its dimensional alignment without requiring conscious effort or formal practice. This creates a continuous feedback loop that maintains your abundance frequency even during busy periods, stressful situations, or moments when you forget to consciously focus on prosperity. The olfactory trigger becomes a portal back to dimensional awareness that operates below the level of thinking and beyond the interference of doubt or resistance. These amplifiers work most effectively when applied consistently over the first week after your initial dimensional breakthrough. Each technique strengthens a different aspect of your consciousness-matter interface, creating multiple pathways for abundance to flow from the invisible realm into your daily experience. You do not need to use all 5 amplifiers. Choose the ones that feel most natural and sustainable for your lifestyle and temperament. The key to successful amplification is maintaining the understanding that you are not trying to create wealth through these techniques. You are simply strengthening your reception of abundance that already exists in the higher dimension. Like adjusting the antenna on a radio for clearer reception, these practices improve the quality and stability of your connection to the frequency where your prosperity broadcasts continuously without interruption. As you apply these amplification techniques, you will notice that abundance begins appearing in your life through increasingly unexpected and delightful channels. Money arrives from forgotten sources, opportunities materialize through casual conversations, resources appear exactly when you need them most, and solutions emerge from directions you never considered. This is not luck or coincidence. This is the natural result of maintaining stable dimensional alignment with the realm where your wealth flows eternally. The amplification process also creates what Genevieve called prosperity momentum, a building wave of abundance that grows stronger with each manifestation. Early signs of dimensional wealth attract larger signs, which attract even greater abundance, creating an upward spiral that eventually becomes self-sustaining. You reach a point where prosperity flows so naturally that you no longer need to think about it or work to maintain it. Speak this amplification mantra silently 3 times as you prepare to strengthen your dimensional frequency. I live in the wealth dimension. Abundance flows through me naturally. My prosperity is permanently established. Feel these words resonating through every cell of your body, anchoring your consciousness firmly in the realm where financial freedom is not a goal to achieve, but a simple fact of existence. Write these words now to activate your commitment to dimensional amplification. I amplify my dimensional frequency. Do not write anything else. Let this declaration signal to the universe that you are ready to receive abundance at levels that match your divine inheritance rather than your current circumstances. And as you strengthen your dimensional alignment through these amplification practices, the signs will begin appearing that confirm your consciousness has successfully locked onto the frequency of effortless prosperity. Let us continue. As your consciousness stabilizes in the higher dimension of wealth, the universe begins communicating with you through what Genevieve called dimensional signals, specific signs that confirm your frequency shift is translating into material form. These signals often appear subtle at first, easily dismissed as coincidence by those who do not understand the precise ways that consciousness interfaces with physical reality. But for those who recognize their significance, these signs provide unmistakable confirmation that abundance is actively flowing from the invisible realm into their experience. The first dimensional signal typically appears as unexpected money or resources arriving through channels you had not considered or had completely forgotten about. This might manifest as a refund check from an overpayment you made months ago, a gift from someone who felt moved to share their abundance with you for no apparent reason, or discovering money in a pocket, purse, or account you thought was empty. The amount is usually modest, enough to notice and appreciate, but not enough to dramatically change your circumstances overnight. This initial signal serves as the universe's way of confirming that your dimensional alignment is active and your frequency adjustment has been received by the field of infinite supply. It is like a test transmission to verify that the communication channel between dimensions is functioning properly. The key is to receive this first signal with genuine gratitude and recognition rather than dismissing it as too small to matter or waiting for something larger before celebrating. The second signal comes through unusual synchronicities related to wealth and opportunity. You might overhear a conversation about exactly the type of income source you need, encounter an advertisement for a service you can provide, receive an unexpected phone call from someone who needs what you offer, or stumble upon information that opens a pathway you had not previously considered. These synchronicities feel different from normal coincidences because they carry an energy of invitation and possibility rather than random occurrence. These synchronistic signals often require you to take some form of action, making a phone call, sending an email, attending an event, or simply paying attention to details you might normally overlook. The higher dimension of wealth does not deliver abundance through passive waiting, but through conscious participation in the opportunities it presents. Your willingness to respond to these signals demonstrates your readiness to receive greater abundance and opens the pathway for larger manifestations. The third signal manifests through noticeable changes in how other people respond to you financially. Friends may spontaneously offer to pay for meals when you are together. Business associates might propose more generous terms than usual for projects or partnerships, or strangers may offer unexpected discounts, bonuses, or preferential treatment. This signal indicates that your dimensional frequency is broadcasting abundance consciousness clearly enough that others unconsciously respond by treating you with greater financial generosity. This shift in how others relate to you financially reflects the principle that your inner frequency determines your outer experience. When you vibrate at the frequency of the wealth dimension, you literally become a magnet for generous behavior from others. People feel your abundance consciousness and are inspired to participate in its expression, often without understanding why they feel moved to be more giving or supportive than usual. The fourth signal appears as a noticeable decrease in financial anxiety and a corresponding increase in prosperity confidence. You find yourself making decisions from abundance rather than scarcity, feeling excited about opportunities rather than fearful about risks, and naturally expecting positive financial outcomes rather than preparing for problems. This internal shift is perhaps the most significant signal because it indicates that your identity has begun aligning with the wealth dimension rather than the old patterns of limitation. You may notice that checking your bank balance no longer creates anxiety, that bills arrive without triggering stress, that unexpected expenses feel manageable rather than catastrophic. This emotional transformation often precedes material changes and serves as evidence that your consciousness has successfully relocated to a higher dimensional frequency where peace and confidence around money are natural states rather than occasional feelings. The fifth and most profound signal comes through what Genevieve called dimensional dreams. Vivid nighttime experiences where you see yourself living in complete financial freedom, making abundant choices, or receiving large sums of money. These dreams feel different from normal fantasies because they carry the frequency of the higher dimension, often leaving you with a lingering sense of certainty that what you experienced was not imagination, but recognition of your true dimensional reality. Dimensional dreams serve as previews of the abundance that is organizing itself to manifest in your physical experience. They often contain specific details or symbols that later appear in your waking life as confirmation that the dream was indeed a glimpse into your emerging reality. Pay attention to these dreams and record them if possible, as they often provide guidance about the pathways through which your abundance will arrive. There was a woman named Barbara who experienced all 5-dimensional signals within 36 hours of her initial frequency shift. She found $27 in an old purse she had not used in months, overheard 2 strangers discussing a freelance opportunity that perfectly matched her skills, received an unexpected dinner invitation from a generous friend who insisted on paying for everything, woke up feeling completely peaceful about her finances for the first time in years, and experienced a vivid dream of signing a contract for work that would triple her income. But Barbara's story reveals the most important truth about dimensional signals. They are not the end goal, but confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. Many people become so focused on watching for signs that they lose sight of the deeper transformation occurring within their consciousness. The signals matter less than the dimensional shift they represent. Your permanent relocation from the frequency of scarcity to the frequency of abundance. The ultimate test before your wealth fully manifests often comes in the form of one final challenge to your dimensional alignment. This test might appear as an unexpected expense that would have previously triggered panic, a temporary setback that seems to contradict your new prosperity consciousness, or a situation that activates your old patterns of financial fear. The test is not designed to block your abundance, but to confirm that your consciousness has truly shifted to the higher dimension, where you know with unwavering certainty that your prosperity is permanently established, regardless of temporary appearances. When Barbara faced this final test, a car repair that would have previously sent her into financial panic and scarcity thinking, she noticed herself responding from her new dimensional position. Instead of fear, she felt curiosity about how the resources would appear. Instead of scrambling to find money through old patterns of stress and struggle, she simply affirmed her connection to the wealth dimension and allowed the solution to present itself. Within hours, the mechanic discovered that the repair was covered under a warranty she had forgotten about, and the entire situation resolved without any cost to her. This response to challenge is the clearest signal that your dimensional shift is complete. When apparent problems become opportunities for the universe to demonstrate its abundant support, when obstacles transform into evidence of divine provision, when setbacks become setups for even greater flow, you know that your consciousness has permanently relocated to the higher dimension of wealth. As you recognize these dimensional signals in your own experience over the next 48 hours, remember that each sign is confirmation of what has already been accomplished in the invisible realm. You are not waiting for abundance to come to you. You are witnessing abundance revealing itself to you through increasingly obvious channels. Write these words now to acknowledge your readiness to receive dimensional signals. The higher dimension is active. Do not write anything else. Let this declaration open your awareness to recognize the subtle and obvious ways that abundance is already flowing from the invisible realm into your material experience. And now, as your consciousness settles permanently into the higher dimension of wealth, there is one final practice that seals your dimensional alignment and ensures that your connection to abundance can never be lost, weakened, or diminished by any external circumstance. Let us continue. The moment has arrived for the final dimensional seal that permanently establishes your consciousness in the higher dimension of wealth. This seal works differently from everything you have practiced so far because it operates not through effort or technique, but through recognition of what has already been accomplished in the deepest layers of reality. Genevieve discovered that this final practice creates what she called dimensional permanence, a state where your abundance frequency becomes so deeply anchored in your consciousness that no external circumstance, temporary setback, or moment of doubt can disconnect you from your prosperity source. This sealing process represents the completion of your transformation from someone who hopes for financial improvement to someone who lives permanently in the realm where prosperity flows as naturally as breath. It is the difference between visiting the higher dimension of wealth occasionally and establishing your permanent residence there. Once this seal is in place, you will no longer need to work to maintain your abundance frequency. It will maintain itself as your natural baseline state. Sit quietly in the same position you used for the golden key practice and place both hands on your heart where the dimensional doorway was opened. Feel the connection you established. Sense the frequency of the wealth dimension flowing through your consciousness and recognize that this moment represents the completion of your transition from scarcity to abundance. You are no longer someone who occasionally accesses wealth consciousness. You have become someone who lives permanently in the realm where prosperity is the natural order. Close your eyes and feel yourself standing once again in the golden light of the higher dimension of wealth. But this time, instead of visiting this realm, you are claiming it as your permanent home. Feel your consciousness settling into this space like moving into a house you will never leave. This dimension is no longer somewhere you go. It is where you are. This frequency is no longer something you tune into. It is what you broadcast continuously. Now speak these words 3 times, with each repetition growing stronger in authority and certainty. Begin the first repetition in a whisper, as if sharing a sacred secret with the universe itself. I am permanently tuned to the wealth dimension. Feel these words entering your cellular memory, your electromagnetic field, your quantum structure. Speak the second repetition in your normal voice, declaring this truth with confident clarity that fills the space around you. I am permanently tuned to the wealth dimension. Feel the words creating an unbreakable bond between your individual consciousness and the infinite abundance that flows eternally in the higher realm. And declare the third repetition with the full authority of someone who knows their divine inheritance and claims it without apology or hesitation. I am permanently tuned to the wealth dimension. Feel this declaration sealing itself into every aspect of your being, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. As these words settle into your consciousness like seeds taking root in fertile soil, feel them creating an unbreakable connection between your awareness and the infinite abundance that flows eternally in the higher dimension. This is not an affirmation you hope will become true. This is recognition of what has already been established in the realm where your wealth exists in perfect completion. Now seal this dimensional alignment with the ultimate truth about your identity. You are not a human being who sometimes accesses wealth consciousness. You are not someone who occasionally visits the realm of abundance. You are a dimensional being of wealth who temporarily wears human form for the purpose of expressing prosperity through individual experience. Your essence is abundance itself, temporarily focused through the vehicle of personality and physical circumstances. Speak this identity statement with absolute knowing, feeling the truth of it resonating in your bones. I am a natural receiver of abundance. Wealth flows to me because wealth flows through me. I cannot be separated from my prosperity because I am prosperity expressing itself in form. My abundance is not something I have, it is something I am. Feel these words transforming not just your thoughts about money, but your fundamental understanding of who you are. You have stepped out of the identity of someone who must earn, achieve, or deserve abundance and into the recognition that you are abundance itself, discovering its own expression through your unique life experience. From this dimensional position, wealth does not come to you. Wealth emerges from you as the natural expression of your divine nature. The dimensional seal is now complete. Your consciousness has been permanently calibrated to receive the wealth frequency broadcast from the higher dimension. No external circumstance, temporary setback, or moment of doubt can break this connection because it has been established at the level of spiritual identity rather than mental belief. You are no longer someone who works to maintain abundance consciousness. You are someone who naturally expresses it in every moment. Over the next 48 hours, watch as the universe begins delivering confirmation that your dimensional seal is active and your permanent alignment is established. But do not watch from the old position of waiting for abundance to arrive. Watch from your new dimensional identity as someone for whom prosperity is the natural state, recognizing the evidence of what you already know to be true. The signs will come in forms you expect and in ways that surprise you. Money will arrive through familiar channels and through pathways you never imagined. Opportunities will present themselves through logical connections and through synchronicities that seem impossible, yet unfold with perfect timing. Resources will appear when you need them, often before you consciously realize you need them. But more importantly than any external sign, you will notice the internal shift that confirms your dimensional permanence. You will find yourself making decisions from abundance, even when your bank balance suggests scarcity. You will feel excited about possibilities, even when circumstances appear limiting. You will respond to challenges with curiosity rather than fear, knowing that every situation contains hidden opportunities for abundance to express itself more fully. If this revelation has awakened something deep within your soul, if you sense that your entire relationship with money and possibility has shifted during these moments together, I invite you to subscribe to this channel as a declaration that you are ready to live from the higher dimension in all areas of your life. When you subscribe, you join a community of consciousness that supports each other's recognition of divine abundance rather than competing for limited resources. This channel exists to share the profound teachings that Genevieve Behrend and other masters left for those ready to transcend limitation and live from their true dimensional identity. Each video is designed to bridge the gap between spiritual understanding and practical results, showing how ancient wisdom creates modern miracles in the lives of those who apply it with sincerity and faith. Return to this video in exactly 48 hours and share your dimensional experience in the comments. Write about the signals you received, the synchronicities that appeared, the shifts you noticed in your internal relationship to wealth, and the evidence that confirmed your consciousness has successfully tuned into the frequency of effortless prosperity. Your testimony will serve as encouragement for others who are ready to step into their own dimensional breakthrough. And remember this truth as you move forward into your new life. You have not learned a technique for manifesting money. You have remembered who you truly are, a dimensional being of infinite abundance, temporarily focused through human form for the purpose of expressing prosperity in the physical realm. Your wealth was never absent, only hidden behind the veil of limited perception. Now that the veil has been lifted, prosperity flows to you as naturally as light flows from the sun. The higher dimension of wealth has been waiting for your recognition since before you were born. Your consciousness has been permanently tuned to its frequency through your willingness to step beyond limitation. Your abundance is sealed in the realm where all possibilities exist in completion. You are no longer someone who hopes for financial freedom. You are someone who lives it. You are no longer someone who seeks prosperity. You are someone who expresses it. You are no longer someone who waits for abundance. You are someone who radiates it in every moment. And so the dimension shifts, and so it is.